Okay, before we move to the question, let me set an agenda for today. So in today's session, we will be covering two problems. One is lowest common ancestor of a binary tree, and the second one is basically around the matrix in which we need to count the number of islands. So let's start. So suppose a binary tree has been given to you and you need to find the lowest common ancestor. So when we say lowest common ancestor, it means a common parent for the two nodes which was given to you. For example, there are two nodes given to you in the below example. One is this p is equal to 5, another is q equal to 1, which is basically these two nodes. So what is the lowest common ancestor for this? 3. Suppose in another problem, like let me change the color. Suppose this is the one node, this is the another node. So what will be the lowest common ancestor for these two nodes? 5. Okay. Suppose another example. Suppose there are two nodes, 1 and 8. What will be the lowest common ancestor for them? 1 itself. Okay. Any doubt in the problem?
No, Nisha.
Great.
Nishant, this is not quite clear. Can you once again repeat?
Yeah, Nishan, same thing.
Okay. So suppose there are two nodes given to you. Basically, p is equal to 5 and q is equal to 1. You need to find the lowest common ancestor. So it means that direct ancestor to these two nodes you need to find out. So where is these two nodes? One is 5, another is 1. So who will be the lowest common ancestor from them? 3. This is clear?
Yeah, yes, Nishant.
Okay. Now suppose one node is given 6, another node is given 4. Who will be the parent? 5. This is clear?
Yeah, clear now.
Okay. Another example. Suppose one node is 2, another node is 8. Who will be the common parent for them? 1 only. Okay. So this is called as lowest common ancestor. I hope the problem is clear to everyone now.
Yeah, Nishant, clear.
Okay. So what we will do is we will see two approaches to solve this problem. So one is recursive, another one is iterative. So let's go with the recursive solution first, and I will try to explain the solution also with an example as shown in this image. Okay. So now the problem says there are two nodes given to you. One is 9, another is 11, and you need to find a common parent for these two nodes, the lowest common ancestor, which is 2. Okay. Now, so what we will do is we will use DFS here, the depth first search here, to find out the parent. So a root node has been given to us, and I need to basically do the DFS. So how do we start? We start like this only. Okay. So this is the first example. So we will traverse 1, then we will go for the left 2, then we will again go for the left 4, then again we will go for the left 8, and 8 do not have anything, any child. So we stop there. Now, when we are traversing down in the depth, we will try to compare each node with the given target node. So there are two given target node. One is called this P, another is called Q. Okay. So we will compare every node, like whether 1 is equal to P or Q, no. Whether 2 is equal to P or Q, no. 4 is equal to P or Q, no. 8 is equal to P or Q, no. So it means once we are done with this tracking, we do not find the solution. Now we need to pop out. So what we will do, we will pop out and then we will try it for another child for the 4. So we will check whether 9 is equal to P or Q. Yes. So we find like first node. Suppose we called as one basically there are two nodes. So we called as one is left, another is right. So we try to find out these two nodes, whether they exist or not exist. If exist, then we will try to find out the lowest common ancestor for them. So if you see this logic, let me zoom in. I hope everyone can see now easily. Okay, so what we did is first we basically traverse from 1 to 2, 4, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and then again once we basically backtrack. So what we did here is backtrack. We basically move from 8 to 4 and then try again for the next node. So yes, we find one node found, we return true. Now we traverse till 4 here, right? Then we find one node. Now again we will move to 2 by popping. So again we will basically start from 2 here after the backtrack. So now we will check for the right node of the 2, which is 5. Then again we check for the left node 10. We do not find another node or any like P or Q. Then basically we again backtrack from 10 to 5, and then basically after this we need to check for right node for 5, which is 11. So we again find another node and we return true. Once we get these two true, right? So we are able to find the both the childs P and Q. Now we will basically go back, and whatever be the parent for this, we will get as a lowest common ancestor. So what we will do, we will try to do backtrack and we will find a parent for them. So from 11, we basically go to 5. Then from 5, we go to 2, and 2 will be our parent because this is common for both. Any doubt in this algorithm or the dry run? Let me explain the code also. So first we will see the Java solution and then we will go for the Swift solution. So in the Java solution, what we did is we first check the root node. If it's null, the LCA will be null only. So directly the base condition. Then another condition could be if the root node is equal to P or Q, then the parent lowest common ancestor for that P and Q will be the root node itself. This is okay.
Yes.
Now we will basically go into the recursion, which is basically a DFS logic. So we will try to traverse in our left tree first. If we do not find it, then we basically go pop and try to go in the right tree. So that should be our logic. So what we did is we called in a recursion with the left tree first. If basically we find any node, then we will have this left node, which should be this root node. So basically whenever we find P and Q, we will basically try to come and we will go for the right again. So we will always have this left and right as a parent node, and we will see if both are null, it means root will be our parent, because when we were calculating left and right, we will be passing root left or root right. So who will be the parent? Root will be the parent. That's the logic here. Okay. So at any point of time, if we find both the nodes, then root will be the parent. If we find only one node, then we will check whether that node is left or right. Whatever be the node, we will return it as a parent itself. Is it clear? The solution is clear? So this is the Swift solution. So
Nishant, can you explain the last line?
yeah, so I will explain in the Swift solution. You will be able to understand easily. Okay. In the Swift
It's fine. Actually, just asking the syntax of ternary operator in Java. I think it's a little bit different.
No, both are same. Let me explain. Just give me a minute, okay?
Okay.
So these are two base condition in Swift, which is similar to the Java only. Then this is the recursion logic, which is also similar to Java. Then in Java, the last line, and in the Swift these two lines, both are same, just written in a different way. Instead of returning using a ternary operator, what we did is we used if and else. So we first check If left and right both are not nil, it means root should be your parent. If either of them is nil, it means if condition fails, we go into the else condition and we will check if left is not equal to nil, it means the node is not nil, so we will return directly left. Else, if left is nil, then we need to return right. So that's the
Yeah,
logic.
got it.
So same is written in the Java solution itself. And the time complexity will be order of n for both the solution, because we need to traverse at least in the worst case, we need to traverse the complete tree. And the space complexity is order of n because of the recursion stack. Okay. Now we have the C++ solution also. So the solution is same. Like we basically check for the base condition, root is equal to null. Then we check root is equal to P or Q. Then return root. Then again the same recursion part. And then again basically the if else condition, which we write in Java or Swift solution also. I hope these solutions are clear. Now I will give a pause for 5 seconds. Let me know if you have any doubts. No?
Nishant, one
Mm-hmm.
second. So passing root dot left.
Your voice is breaking.
So what is left? Left will be the parent of that either P and Q. Okay, just 1 second.
Okay. So basically, see what will be the left. So once we basically doing what we do here in the example itself on the right side, if you see this red line, so we did basically do a DFS search. So we try to search 9 and 11. So in the first DFS, we were unable to find 9. So we backtrack to the 8 and then we try to find 9 also here. Once we find 9, okay, so who will be the left node? What will be the left node?
9.
Try to do the dry run itself.
Okay.
Are
So
you able to
basically,
get?
when we found, yes, basically when we found the 9, which is P, then we are returning true. Okay, in that the left would be basically the 4.
So
Sorry.
see, it is calling in a recursion only, right? So the method called is lowest common ancestor with 3 values. One is the left node, one is P, and one is Q. So the root dot left is basically 8 for the first DFS. When we basically go backtrack, then we are at root, right? So then again we move into the second line, which is this one, right one, right? So then when we got root dot right, which is equal to 9. So what is the root here? When root
4.
dot right is 9, 4. Okay.
4.
So
Yes.
when you basically go into this recursion, what it will return here? What will be
Okay.
the root value?
4. 4. 4. For 9, it will be 4, and then it will return 2. Okay, got it.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I will try then. I understood your point. Okay.
Okay. I think just go with the iterative solution once. You will be able to understand more. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see the iterative solution also, because I know like it's little bit hard to understand the idea behind the recursion. That's why I try to come up with the iterative solution also. Okay, So in the iterative solution, what we will do is we will try to store the parent pointer. So when we say parent pointer, what it means basically like if we have a parent pointer for each node, we can traverse back from P and Q to get their ancestor. And once we have a common ancestor for both the nodes, we will get the lowest common ancestor. That's the idea. Any doubt here? So what should be our algorithm here? We will start from the root node. We will traverse the tree, and until we find P and Q both, we will keep storing the parent pointers in our dictionary. So suppose when we traverse the root node, the parent will be null. When we traverse root left and root right, the parent will be root node itself. Then again for the root left, there will be two child, root left dot left, root left dot right. So what will be the parent for them? Root dot left. Okay. So that should be the logic to create a dictionary until we find P and Q both. Okay. Once we find P and Q, what we will do? We basically traverse our the hash map where we store the parent nodes, and we will traverse again from the root node to the one find node, and we will store all the element into hash map. When we basically go for root to PQ, we will verify whether any node exists in the already added in the hash map or not. If yes, then it's a lowest common ancestor for us. So let me just go through with the code to explain more. What we did is we created a stack. Okay, we created a hash map, and then this is the initial condition where we basically say, yeah, in a hash map that root parent is null and stack has a root element. Now we will start our while loop, try to traverse until we find both the nodes P and Q both. Okay. So what we will do, we will pop the element from the stack, which is root. Then we will check for the root left and we will check for the root right. And this will go on until we find or we traverse the complete tree and we will able to find P and Q both. Now in the parent hash map, we have all the parent nodes. And with the help of stack, we were able to traverse to all the nodes until we find P and Q both. Once we find both, we are done with the traversal. This is clear? Yes, no? Hello?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So once we are done with this, what we will do is we created another ancestor hash map or a hash set where we will basically put all the ancestor from root to P. Okay. So what we will do is we will try to process all the ancestor for node P node, right? So what we will do, we have the P node. We know who will be the parent node for the P because we have a dictionary with us which contains all the parent node. So with the help of P, we will do in a while loop. We will basically try to add the ancestor of P in a set, and we will again move to the parent. So what will happen? For example, this is my tree. Okay. And suppose these are the two P and Q node. Suppose this is P and this is Q. So when we were traversing like this, we store the parent node information. Now we once basically with this while loop, we have the P node. So what we did, we will basically storing the ancestor dot add P. So we store the P node here, and then we call okay, get the parent of P. So who will be the parent? The 2 will be the parent here. So we store 2 again in this. So ancestor set will have 3, 2, 1. This is clear?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Now with this another while loop, we will be able to find the lowest common ancestor. What we will do, we have the queue. Okay. So we will try to find the parent for the queue, or we will check like whether this queue node is already there in this ancestor array or ancestor set. If yes, then this should be the parent, this should be the LCA itself. No, then we will go for the parent and we will again check whether it is there in the ancestor set or not. If yes, then that should be the LCA. So that's the logic here. And once we find the node, or once we basically break this while loop, we find our LCA, which is Q itself. Is it clear? Okay, so let me go through with the Swift solution also. The logic is similar. Okay, so these are just base conditions. Then we created a dictionary, we created a array, a stack using an array itself. Then in the dictionary, we basically store the root as a key and parent as a nil for the root node. Then we append the root element into the stack. Then again, we write the while loop with the condition we will traverse until we find both P and Q. We will try to traverse both the left and right node. We will try to store the parent node information for left node and right node. And we will try to append left node and right node into the stack itself. Okay. So that's the logic here. Then again, we took a set here in which we stored the ancestor as P. And then we basically try to find out the parent node for the P node. Using this P node, we try to find out the parent node and we will store in the ancestor set itself. Once we are done with storing all the ancestors for P, including P itself, then with the another while loop, we try to find whether Q or Q's parent are already there in the ancestor set or not. If yes, then we will be able to find the LCA node. That's the logic. Overall time complexity, order of n, order of space complexity, order of n only. Any doubt in this solution? Any doubt in both the solutions?
No, Nishant, that's clear.
Okay, great. Okay, I would like to basically explain the recursion solution again, because one of you asked, and I believe like there is some confusion how to write a recursive code. So just see the algo which is written here. I will basically try to move it down so that we can discuss. Okay, this is the algo. This is the example. Okay. I will try to explain again one more time, and then we will move to the next problem. So in this, what we did is we tried to do the DFS using the root node. So we will basically move like this. We start with this, with the red arrow, and we got till 8. Once we are unable to find any node, then we basically did the backtrack to 4. See this line? So we backtrack to 4, and then again we check for the right node, which is 9. Then once we basically find 9 as one node, we return true, that we are able to find a node at least. Then we basically return, then we check for 4, whether 4 has any other child, no. Then we check for 2, whether 2 has any other child, no. Right? So when we come to this 2, what will happen? Or how do we come to 2? So try to take this code down just to explain the recursion part. So in this, the first this logic, the first recursion, this recursion is basically once we are done with this recursion, it will go to the next line, and with the next line we are going basically doing this backtracking. So once we find this true, we did the backtrack again, like from 9 to 4, 4 to 2, which is done through this only, this line only. So when we basically go for 2's child, which is 5, the parent will be the root node only. When we go for root dot right, the parent node is 2 only. So if we are able to find the node in this recursion, who will be the parent? 2 only. So that's the logic here. That's how basically we check, okay, if both are not nil, then the parent is 2. If one of them become nil, then the logic is different. Then basically we check for this condition. It could be like, suppose take an example like this. One node is 9, another node is 2, and we want to find the LCA for them. So we first check for this 1, then we check for 2. Okay, we find one node. Then again, now we will basically go for the left child again and again, and then again go for the right child also. This is the possibility. But to stop this possibility, what we did is basically we first check the first P node, okay, with this logic, the first line. Then once we basically able to find 2, then it comes to the next line. And it try, okay, that 1 dot right will have the element. No, it won't have the element. Then once this is done with this recursion, we will again come to this recursion after the basically this is a stack. Think like a stack only. When you basically try to traverse, you will basically put it into the stack, and to go to the different direction, you need to pop out the element from the stack itself. I'm not sure whether it's clear again or not.
Thank you, Nishant. It's clear.
Okay. So let's move to another problem, which is based on the BFS DFS itself. The problem is number of islands. So when we say number of island, what it means, basically a 2D matrix has been given to you. In this matrix, there are 1 and zeros. When we say 1, it means a land. When we say zeros, it means water. And if the land is connected, it is called as island. Even a single one is also called as island if there is no other ones connected to it. For example, let's take an example. Like these ones all are connected. Okay. So output should be 1 only, because these all are 1 are connected to this. So output is 1. The number of islands in the first example is 1. Let's take another example. These two. These are connected. This is not connected to anyone, and this is connected. Now, how do we say like whether it's connected or not connected? So here, the question itself says we need to basically check horizontally or vertically. If horizontally or vertically you find any one, it means they are adjacent and they are connected lands. That's why the third line is not connected, because either horizontally, neither vertically, this is connected to any one node. So that is an independent node. That's why the output for the second example is 3 islands. Whether the question is clear or not?
It's clear, Nishant.
Okay, great. So we will see how to solve this problem. So the normal approach could be basically we will use BFS or DFS to solve these kind of problems. Okay, because think these all the ones which are connected either horizontally or vertical as a undirected graph, and try to either traverse using BFS or DFS and then see whether these are connected or not. Okay. So let's go with the code. Okay, so these are three solutions. Okay. So I will explain the first DFS solution. So I believe everyone knows what is DFS, and then I will try to explain how are we solving this problem. Okay, so we will take one example. Let me zoom in. Okay, so suppose I have taken one example like this: 1 0 0 1. How many islands are there in this matrix?
2.
Okay, so it should return 2. So this is the simplest input I can take to do the dry run of my code, just to explain you guys. Okay, so this is the given method and I need to write the logic inside it. So a 2D matrix of character array has been given to me. So the first of all, the base condition could be like the 2D matrix is empty. So I can return there will be no islands. So I will directly return 0. This is my base condition. Then I will try to find out the number of rows and number of columns. So for this 2D matrix, the number of row and the number of column could be 2, 2. This is clear. Now we took a variable which is basically number of islands. So we will try increment the count whenever we encounter 1. Okay. So we start traversing using a two for loop. This matrix, we will try to traverse 2D matrix with the 2 for loops using this for int r is equal to 0, for int c is equal to 0. Then we will see, okay, the 0 0 contains 1. Yes, it contains 1. We will increment the number of island count directly. Okay. Once we did this, now we need to check whether is there any land which is either horizontally connected or vertically connected to this land. So we need to check that also. And to check that, either we will use DFS or BFS. So in this example, we use DFS. Okay, so we call the DFS method with 3 input. One is basically 2D matrix, another is the current row and the current column. Because we have this now, we will check for the left node, then we will check for the right node, we will check for the top node, we will check for the bottom node. So now I need to check for 4 directions: 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for 0, 0 position, I need to check for 0, 1. 0, 1, then 1, 0, and then -1, 0, and 0, -1. These are the 4 positions I need to check. Okay. And just to check these 4 positions, if you see, either I will be basically incrementing the row or decrementing the row, or I will be incrementing the column or decrementing the column. And this logic can be written using these 4 conditions in the recursion itself using the DFS logic. I believe this is clear. Now I will go into the logic part, like what we are trying to do here. So let me find some more space to explain.
Nishant, one doubt. So, can we choose BFS, DFS randomly, or is there a specific reason we need to find to use particular?
Right. So BFS is basically optimized solution because it just traverses one node only one time. And to make that thing similar in a DFS, what we can do is we can use either modify the existing matrix or we can use a visited array. Then both the approaches will be same only.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this 1, 0, 0, 1, this was our matrix. Now in this, the row is 0, column is 0. Now we know NR and INC, and we will check whether the row and column is out of bound or not. So initially the row is 0, column is 0. So if condition is valid, okay. Now I come to this line where I just make the first node from 1 to 0. So what it did is it changed like this. And why did we change? Because we do not want to traverse this one again, because we already consider this as a number of island as 1. So if any node which is connected to the 0, 0 position, we will mark them as 0 directly, and we will say the number of islands remain 1 only. That's why we call this DFS logic. Now with these 4 logic, it will try to do traverse in all the 4 directions and try to validate the same thing. So when we say r minus 1, it goes into this direction or this direction. R minus 1 is basically up direction. C minus 1 is the left direction. So the first condition and the third condition both will fail in the if condition itself. Now the second condition where r plus 1. So r plus 1 is basically this one, this 0, right? So this is already 0. So this condition fails and it will return. Then in the C plus 1 condition, this 0 will come, and this, because of this condition, it will fail again. And we will be able to find the number of island like 1. Then again, with this for loop, we try to traverse again like this, then here. Here we find 1 again, then we will increment the number of island to 2 and try to do the DFS again. But all these 3 elements are 0, so we do not need to worry. So the number of islands will be 2 for this input matrix. That's the logic in the DFS. And overall time complexity will be, we need to traverse all the elements in the matrix. That could be the worst case. Like for example, when the matrix contains all ones, then we need to basically traverse all the elements just to mark them as a one island. And the space complexity could be order of m into n. Because of the length, we need to basically go and use the recursion, and in the recursion, when we traverse all m into n elements, the overall space complexity will m into n itself. Similar solution is for C++ and Swift. I believe I do not need to explain. Okay. Any doubt in DFS solution?
No, Nishant. But one thing I'm just want to add on is the statement where it is written grid R and C equal to 0, it means we don't need any visited matrix extra space to store the visited, because we are modifying the input.
Right.
So that we cannot, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But still it will take order of m into n space because of the recursion part. So you need to explicitly told the interviewer that like I do not consume any space, so the space complexity is order of 1, but because of the recursion, the stack will consume order of m into n space.
Okay, got it.
Now let's move to the BFS solution, and we will see how the BFS works. I think everyone knows how the BFS works. So what we did is we basically tried one queue. We append the root node earlier, and then we try to traverse all the childs of this root node. So in the 2D matrix, consider 1 as a root node. Once you find any 1, that becomes your root node. Then you basically go in all the 4 directions and check whether is there any 1. If yes, then you will basically append into the queue itself and try to traverse all the metrics using that only. So that's the logic for the BFS. So let me explain through the code. Okay. So this is the base condition. This is again the same number of row and number of column island. Then this is the normal for loop where we basically start traversing the matrix. Once we find any one, we basically increment the number of islands, and then the logic of our BFS starts. Okay. So what we did is, once we basically find like one at the row comma column, we mark them as a visited, or we basically update the row and column. Like take an example like this: 1, 1, 0, 1. So how many islands will be there in this input?
1.
1, right? So suppose R is equal to 0, C is equal to 0. I find the 1, number of islands become 1. Then I basically change this matrix into 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay. With this change, mark as visited line, this change. Now I basically take a queue and basically try to add the never for this row comma column position. This is okay. So there are multiple ways to write a similar code. So suppose once you have the row comma column, you can directly store the row or column like R comma C, like this in the I have basically explained in the C++ solution. Or this is the another way to save row comma column information. So what you can do is like whatever the number you are storing here, once you have the number, to get the row and column from that number, you just need to divide the number from NC, you will get the row. If you percentile the number, you will get the column. So this is basically similar to the like the division and the remainder factor, if you remember the math. So that's how you can store in a single variable. If you are unable to understand this logic, you can store directly like this, R comma C. So you will store both the pairs, R comma C, and you will use this R comma C to traverse all the 4 direction nodes like this. So here what we did is we try to traverse all the 4 directions, and we try to store basically like whichever we are traversing, we will try to append into the queue itself, the neighbor queue. Similarly here in the C++ solution, once we basically traverse all the 4 direction, if all the 4 direction contains 1, then we will store in the queue. So for the input matrix, suppose this is my queue. Okay, initially I store 0, 0 with this line. Okay, now I remove here. So I remove this 0, 0. Now I try to check for all the 4 direction, this, and this. If it contains 1, so 3 direction does not contain 1, 1 direction contains 1, which is a right direction where our column is incrementing. So this condition, the column is incrementing. This becomes true. So I need to append this, basically the column plus 1. So column plus 1 is 0, 1. So I will store this in a queue. Then again, it will come again in the while loop again on the top. I will remove this and we'll see if it contains any one in all the 4 directions. So this is 0. There are no zeros here or no ones. Then only this 1 is left. So this 1 is in basically the next row. So R plus 1. So this condition will be true. And I will basically again traverse this and mark as 0. And again, we will come in the while loop. There will be no child left. So all the metrics will become 0, 0, 0, 0. And the number of islands remain 1 only. So that's the logic here. I hope this logic is clear. Similarly, for the Swift solution also, the same logic works. So what we did is we basically used 2 for loops. We check if 1 exists, then we try to run the BFS and increment the output count, like the number of islands count. And with the BFS logic, what we did is we basically store the row comma column in a queue. We mark the row column as a visited, and then the normal BFS logic where we basically check whether a queue is empty. No, then we try to remove the element from the queue and try to traverse all the like top neighbor, left neighbor, right neighbor, and bottom neighbor. And the same will work until we traverse the complete matrix, which is connected through these ones. So this is the logic for BFS. Any doubt here? Okay, if there is no doubt, I think we have covered both the problems. So just to recall everything again, in the first problem, lowest common ancestor, we took two approaches. One is recursive, another one is iterative using parent pointer. Then in the number of islands, we took two approaches. One is DFS based approach, another is BFS based approach. Okay. Any questions, guys? Okay, if there is no questions, we are done. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Nishant.
Thank you, Nishan.